A razor-sharp December wind whistled around Westminster Abbey, rattling centuries-old stained glass and curling around the kindness tree in the cloister. Hundreds of royal guests hushed as choir boys lifted their angelic voices. But the real hush, the kind people feel in their bones, struck when a 7-year-old prince lifted a red card above his head and declared someone in the royal circle a liar. No trumpet sounded, no staff announced the moment. It was one child, one sentence, and suddenly every iPhone in the pews twitched to life. Within minutes, the words Prince Louis and Queen Camilla blazed across social feeds worldwide. If a future king's youngest son could call out the queen consort in public, what tangled truths had finally slipped the palace leash? Keep listening, the ripples are only beginning. By the time most British children learned to tie their own shoelaces, little Louis Arthur Charles Wales, known affectionately as Lou Bug to palace aides, had already stolen more headlines than many minor royals manage in a lifetime. Remember the balcony salute during Trooping the Color, when Louis ignored the RAF flypast to tug William's sleeve and ask, far too loudly, whether jets were louder than Granny's bagpipes? The nation laughed then, believing the boy's mischief harmless, even healthy for a family often accused of stiff veneer. Clips of his goofy faces rocketed through TikTok. Tabloids ran countdowns of Louis's top 10 cheekiest moments. Yet behind the meme-worthy grins sits a brain absorbing everything. Staff at Adelaide Cottage whisper that Louis can already imitate every senior relative's speaking cadence, right down to King Charles's eco-lecture size. He hangs on footman gossip, repeats fragments, test reactions. Where George politely nods and Charlotte mediates, Louis files away inconsistencies the way other kids collect marbles. So when the nation's favorite scamp suddenly dropped a bomb about Queen Camilla's honesty, seasoned courtiers felt their stomachs dip. Mischief is funny only until it cracks something fragile, and the monarchy's veneer is famously hairline thin. But to understand why the crack echoed, we must step back to the shadow the little prince never met, his late grandmother Diana. 2 decades ago, Camilla was not Her Majesty the Queen. She was a tabloid effigy tacked to dartboards in university dorms. Front-page editors milked every grimace, every half-smile, every crooked pearl string as proof she'd never belong. Then came strategy. Camilla lowered her profile, embraced dowdy country chic, wrapped herself in charity for osteoporosis and literacy, and waited while public fury cooled to indifference, and eventually, wary acceptance. By 2023, the coronation coach creaked toward Westminster with Camilla inside, crowned beneath gold arch and medieval chant. Acceptance, though, is not affection. Polls still show Britain split when her name appears beside Diana's. Younger generations shrug, older ones remember audio tapes and tampon gate. In the Wales household, emotional history weighs heavier than public polls. Princess Catherine courts cordiality. Prince William maintains a protective arm's length. And children, those merciless detectors of tension, read their parents' micro-reactions better than any body language analyst. Louis may not grasp the 1990s scandals, but he has felt the pulse behind every stiff hug exchanged between his father and the step-grandmother, who replaced the angelic face in family portraits. Which brings us to the ghost who still lingers in palace corridors. William was only 15 when he followed his mother's coffin past weeping crowds. He learned early that family wounds become public exhibits, that stray words can feed tabloids for decades. Friends say he vowed his future children would never sense that dread, never doubt their parents' united front. Yet trauma is a clever stowaway. It slips beneath vows and travels unseen until the next generation unwraps it. Psychologists call the effect intergenerational echo, memories we never made but somehow inherit. William hides his scars behind duty, but on nights when Kensington's nursery lights burned late, staff overheard whispered promises. You'll always feel safe, Lou Bug. No surprises, I swear. Promises anchor children, yet the universe rarely honors them perfectly. The moment Louis spoke at the Abbey, William's eyes flashed centuries of royal training. Then the raw fear of a boy who once watched cameras dissect his parents' failures. Fear, however, is fuel for rumor mills, and rumor mills spin fastest at Christmas. Picture Westminster Abbey awash in candle glow. Senators, soccer stars, and charity workers pinning crimson notes to a towering spruce. Each card thanked an unsung hero: nurses, dinner ladies, scout leaders. Cameras lingered on George writing briskly on Charlotte's neat cursive. Then Louis, tongue poked in concentration, scribbled something quick, bold, and unmistakably heartfelt. He waved the card toward his mother, beaming. The words read, "Thank you, Granny and Grandpa Middleton, for always playing trains." Harmless, sweet, except when a BBC correspondent cooed, "Anyone else on your list, brave chap?" Louis frowned. "Not the Queen," he said. "She's not telling the truth." 4 simple words. Oxygen left the nave. Duchess Catherine's hand pressed delicately to her son's shoulder. The universal signal for "shh, darling." Too late. 5 smartphones had captured the exchange. 20 more had recorded the silence that followed. And by midnight, number Louis Bombshell trended in 71 countries. Palace staff attempted digital triage, flagging copyright takedowns, urging networks to blur the boy's face. But the genie cackled from the bottle, retweeted, subtitled, remixed with drum and bass. While the internet feasted, Queen Camilla stood statuesque beneath a garland of holly. Eyewitnesses recount the instant. Camilla's smile froze, eyes widening fractionally before shutters slammed behind decades of media training. She leaned toward the organist, applauded a hymn, and kept her back to the commotion, a masterclass in royal damage control. But freeze frames of that half-second eyebrow twitch became screensaver fodder. Does this look like guilt? Shock? Hidden sorrow? Body language experts splashed across breakfast television, adjudicating micro-gestures measured in milliseconds. The Queen's press secretary released a bland line about family harmony, yet bookmakers slashed odds on a new wave of palace memoirs. Conspiracy vloggers crowed that a 7-year-old had confirmed every whispered suspicion, from secret paternity plots to cathedral vault scandals. In truth, nobody knew what Louis meant. Children blurt, children misunderstand. But perception beats fact in the court of public opinion, and perception just crowned Louis the pint-sized truth-teller against a duchess-turned-queen. Still, what could a child genuinely accuse a grandmother of? Theories sprouted like ivy on palace stonework. One possibility, broken promises. Sources near Windsor recall a summer picnic when Camilla vowed to read Louis his favorite Gruffalo tale after tea, only to vanish into a briefing with private secretaries. Mild to an adult, but to a child, a promise abandoned can rankle like betrayal. Another theory whispers of overheard corridors. Camilla jesting about spirited grandchildren after Louis toppled a bonsai during coronation rehearsals. Maybe the jest sounded harsher through oak panels, or perhaps Louis, absorbing fragments of adult caution. Remember Granny Diana? Camilla didn't treat Grandpa nicely once, stitched a story his moral compass couldn't square. Developmental psychologists note that at 7, children enter what's dubbed the justice phase. Fairness becomes gospel, inconsistency, sin. If Louis sensed one set of rules for royals and another for step-grannies, his nascent knight-errant heart might rebel. Whether the offense was trivial or towering, his conclusion was absolute. She's not telling the truth. Children rarely hedge. With that verdict aired, palace aides scrambled to cork the aftershocks. While choristers still sang "O Holy Night," senior courtiers clustered in an oak-paneled anteroom, phones buzzing like hornets. Step 1, isolate viral clips. Step 2, craft talking points. Step 3, reassure donors attending Boxing Day's hospice gala that the monarchy remained united. Meanwhile, Catherine ferried her wide-eyed son home, William fielded calls from a livid press chief, and Camilla retreated to Clarence House, reportedly pacing before a Gainsborough landscape. Historians traded comparisons. Princess Margaret's hot mic quips, Prince Harry's Vegas vacation, even Edward VIII's tango photograph. Royal children had slipped before, but never with such pointed insinuation at a reigning queen. Advisors urged calm. He's just a boy. Yet social data analysts warn that Gen Z and Gen Alpha adore unfiltered authenticity. Silence could morph into perceived oppression of a child's voice. Damned if they spoke, damned if they stonewalled. And outside gilded gates, YouTube's rumor engine revved into overdrive. By dawn, fan edits paired Lewis's quote with slow-mo footage of Camilla adjusting her tiara, throat clearing interpreted as guilt. One channel spliced archival footage of 1990s phone tapes, overlaying a heartbeat boom while text screamed, "History repeats." Views soared, ad revenue spiked. Meanwhile, a quieter casualty emerged, a 12-point dip in Camilla's favorability on an Ipsos overnight poll. Republican activists plastered, "If a prince can question her, why can't you?" across London bus stops. Yet not everyone cheered the boy. Columnists tut-tutted about exploiting minors. Palace loyalists accused Catherine of staging the moment. She hadn't. Somewhere in suburban Surrey, an Etsy shop sold knitted Team Louis beanies faster than grannies could purl. Information spun faster than the Crown's 17-person digital team could correct. And through it all, Lewis reportedly spent Boxing Day building Lego Hogwarts, blissfully unaware he'd triggered a public relations avalanche. Still, in Britain, monarchy equals continuity. Could one child's quip ever truly rattle succession? Legally, no toddler can dent the act of settlement. Charles remains king, William next, George after, Charlotte fourth, Louis himself fifth. Yet monarchy survives on story as much as statute. If the youngest Wales openly doubts the Queen, what does that whisper about unity? Politicians sense the tremor. Backbench MPs floated fresh debates on trimming civil list funding. Scottish commentators revisited independence arguments. The Crown depends on mystery and moral high ground. Lewis's sentence yanked back the velvet curtain to reveal ordinary human friction. Courtiers plotted a spring photo op. Camilla kneeling to inspect Lewis's sapling in the Clarence House garden, a picture of reconciliation. But PR formulas falter when the audience smells orchestration. The only antidote to child-spoken truth may be child-desired truth, a genuine relationship nurtured away from cameras. Whether that can bloom under the weight of decades-old heartbreak is a chapter yet unwritten. And so we circle back to the smallest member of the Wales trio, whose question still hangs unanswered over gilded rafters. What precisely did Queen Camilla fail to tell the truth about? A broken promise of hide and seek? A half-heard remark about naughty boys whispered over sherry? Or something history-shaking hidden beneath quilted upholstery in Windsor's white drawing room? Perhaps we'll never know. Children forget, adults bury, and courtiers redact. Yet Louis's tiny truth bomb already shifted public perception, proving that in a digital age, the palace's greatest vulnerability isn't paparazzi lenses or leaked memos. It's the unfiltered honesty of a child untouched by spin. So here we stand. A Christmas card, a 4-word verdict, and an institution older than most nations wobbling on the axis of authenticity. If 7-year-old Prince Louis can jolt the monarchy with one candid breath, imagine the aftershocks as he grows, learns, and perhaps chooses openness over protocol. Will future kings and queens rise from a dynasty fluent in heartfelt transparency? Or will old walls thicken to mute such voices? History waits, ears pricked. If you've stayed to the end, you're part of that unfolding chronicle. Drop your theories below. Are you Team Louis, Team Camilla, or Team Let's Wait for Facts? Smash that like to keep this conversation alive. Share with fellow royal watchers, and hit subscribe so you're first in line when the palace blinkers next slip. Because in the House of Windsor, the smallest whisper can become a thunderclap, and we'll be here to catch every reverberation.